Today I'm joined by Michael Reitzenstein, who started his first video game company as a teenager after dropping out of uni. What followed was a roller coaster, from budgeting meals to suddenly making thousands of dollars a day, publishing deals and creating one of the first web game companies with in-app purchases. At just 21 years of age, Mike was scaling fast, hiring teams, fighting co-founder battles, and learning hard lessons about leadership along the way. I'm really excited to dive into his journey. Mike, thank you so much for being here. You've had a very, very interesting journey. How did it all begin?
Thanks very much, Loveth. And I really like your intro. It's like I'm living it again. So.
Hopefully it's not like bringing PTSD or anything. It's good memories.
So I actually started with game development in high school.
Okay.
And I never wanted to do it as a career or that wasn't sort of my intention. But I released my first game that people paid money for when I was 15.
Wow.
And so I just got really excited about sort of doing that. And it only made like a few $100s, so it wasn't a crazy thing. But
at 15, that's still really cool.
Yeah, and much to the chagrin of my mother, I was wagging school to go and develop my games, which most people were like, smoking weed behind the school shed or whatever, and I was sitting there programming. So
how did you learn how to program?
Just through books and stuff like that.
So self-taught, that's amazing.
Yeah, I was in country WA, like in Bunbury, just south of Perth. And I think I was a professional programmer before I met another professional programmer. Like it was very just, in the middle of nowhere, essentially. I'm sure I could have networked and found some there. Like there were probably hundreds of them, but I didn't find them.
You were just on your own, learning how to program using books, and you started making a few $100s. How did things progress from there on?
Yeah. So I released the games when I was at high school, but I thought I needed a career, which was probably one of the few sensible decisions I made back then. And I really enjoyed sort of electronics and some of the logic from programming seemed like it would be a natural fit to do electrical engineering, which is what I decided to do as my degree. For some really weird reason, I thought that I kind of thought that programming was so easy at the time that like it wasn't a grown-up job and like programmers weren't going to make a lot of money. And so I would do electrical engineering. And if you look at the salary guides right now, that was just an awful mistake. Awful mistake. But I didn't end up going into electrical engineering anyway. And so I went to uni for probably 2 years of a 4-year degree. Mm-hmm. And I was still making games on the side and sort of kind of enjoying it and sort of dipping my toes in the water of doing it professionally. And we ended up getting me and my co-founder that we'll sort of get to in a bit. We ended up getting a publishing deal for one of the video games I was working on. And it wasn't much money. It was like $20,000 or something like that. But it was enough. I thought it was a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. Even today, I think it's pretty decent, I guess.
Yeah, but
how old were you guys?
If it takes you a year to make it, then
when you put it like that.
I mean, it was in advance on the royalties, and so we kind of thought that it was going to be a big successful game, and it was enough to eat ramen while we made it.
How old were you both at that time?
So I was 18. So I started uni 17, and when I was 17. WA, you leave school a year earlier for some weird reason. And my co-founder was sort of late 20s, so he'd actually had a game company before that. You could actually invite him onto this podcast, actually. So, so I was really young and I was just very, I just thought the world was my oyster and let's do this, like this is going to be great. And I think he had had a bit of an attitude more like mine right now, which is like, there's a bit of a 1,000-yard stare of like, you have wins and losses, but it ain't going to be like easy. And
it sounds like a good balance of both, the optimistic, life-changing, and then the more pragmatic, I've seen it all, a bit jaded.
Yeah, I think that is a good way to put it. And I think that it's one of those things where you can't put an old head on young shoulders. And so I kind of in some ways didn't understand his sort of attitudes or view of life until I was older. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, I get it.
It makes sense. So what was the game?
This game was called Inca Quest. And at the time, there was this, what was known as the casual games market that was more or less started by a company called PopCap Games. I don't know if you play games, but Bejeweled, Plants vs. Zombies, Peggle, Zuma, like they had a string of hits that they did very, very well with. And they were later acquired by EA for $1.1 billion, I think.
Wow.
So they, like, all of the traditional gaming companies thought that casual games were just a joke. And they were primarily played by women in their 30s and 40s. And this was pre-phone, like phone gaming, where I think that is now the largest market, or like sort of casual gaming in general has evolved to be the largest market. But it was seen as a bit of a joke for the industry at the time. Yet the people in it that were doing well were doing just extremely well, and especially for the sizes of the teams. AAA studio at the time might have been 50, 100 people, whereas a lot of these games were made by like an artist, a programmer, and a producer, and then they'd go on to make like millions of dollars. So it was there was a bit of a gold rush, and so around that time, like I saw that happening, my co-founder saw it happening, and everyone around the industry was like, "Wow, these people are making serious money here," and we decided to go where the money is. It wasn't really about passion or anything like that. It was like, hey, I can make games. Games are making a lot of money. I'm just gonna do this.
It makes sense. And you found programming very easy. So, like, yeah, you're definitely set up for success.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I found it easy, but if I look at some of my old code, I would probably think I wasn't quite as good as I thought I was.
And you are quite young, but what year was this? Just to provide some context, because things have changed rapidly from what you're talking about.
Yeah, so this would have been, so I started uni in 2004, so this would have been 2005.
Wow.
Yeah, and so the casual game scene was really taking off like 2001 to like 2001 onwards, and it was a fairly slow but substantial ramp like over those years.
Yeah. Okay, so you developed the games, you had this 20,000 USD advance payment. What happened next?
I moved to New Zealand.
Why New Zealand?
Packed my bags. That was where my co-founder was. He had a family and a son and stuff like that. And so, and I was completely, I quit uni to do this. And so I was completely unattached. And he actually lived on an island off of Auckland, so Waiheke Island, that's home to about 3,000 permanent residents. And during the summer when it's party season, like 10,000 people come over or something like that.
What a change. Okay.
Yeah. So, well, it was very, the population was either extremely wealthy or, not. Like there was no middle class essentially on the island because there weren't any jobs.
Right.
So it was a very interesting place, very kumbaya, very, very fun, like beach parties and stuff like that.
Interesting. And was it conducive to doing what you both needed to get done, or did you feel a bit secluded geographically from the action, I guess?
Yeah, it's a good question. I kind of felt like it was an adventure, and working in person was just so much better as I sort of expected it to be. And yeah, it was just, I don't know, like I didn't have that many preconceived notions about what life was or, what, you should be experiencing or anything like that. Like I'd literally just lived at home and then lived in student accommodation. And so, yeah, it was just interesting to me, I think is the way I'd sum it up.
It does sound very interesting. So you moved to New Zealand, to this a bit off the grid area with, fluctuations in population. What happened next? I'm guessing you continued to develop the game.
Yep.
Did the user base grow over time?
The game was basically a failure. Like
from post the 20K advance payment?
So I do think we got some royalties. Probably in total it was like twice that or something like that. And the game didn't convert well. And so the mechanisms of the market were essentially that there are all of these websites known as portals where they would have the user's attention and they would offer your game for sale, very much like your Target or something like that, where the retailers are not the creators of the product. Although they also made games as well, much like our home, the no name brand things that are sort of in supermarkets today. And so if you think about it, there's a lot of non-linearity in terms of if your game converts, somebody playing the demo, they like it, they buy it. If you can convert higher, you'll do better, and then they'll make more revenue for the placement. And so if you're half as good as the leading competitor, you'll make nothing. If you're 10% better, you'll make $1 million, every 6 months or something like that per portal. And so it was our first game and in that genre, and I don't think we did a bad job, but the non-linearities were working against us, so to say. And I think in large part it was just a lack of understanding of the target market, the target demographic. Like, we kind of made a game that on paper seemed like it was a good fit for the audience, but I don't know, we just made a game for ourselves, and that wasn't the market, in terms of difficulty and just all of like the upgrades and stuff like that. It's like, what does a 17-year-old boy want in a game for 40-year-old women? Like, it was not a combination that made a lot of sense.
Yeah. Okay. And in terms of your key or core user base, how would you describe them? Do you sort of have an archetype, or did you know who played your games at that time?
Honestly, well, on paper, yes, but that was before I had ever like sat next to somebody trying to play them or something like that. Like, I didn't do user discovery until later. I just sort of saw all this money being made
And just followed the money.
exactly, and just overconfidently thought that if I checked out the competition and then made my own judgments of what I thought that they did well and poorly, that I'd be able to compete with them. And I think it was an early kick in the teeth, which taught me about, the things you care about is not necessarily the things that your audience will care about.
No, and it's not necessarily the thing that is scalable, I guess, to a broad range
Very
of
much
people.
So. Yeah.
Did you seek to pivot the game at any point to make it a bit more appealing to the masses, or where did the decision come from to slowly wind it down, I guess?
So back then, games were basically you'd release them and then they'd do well or not, and then that was it, essentially. You could make a sequel if if a game made a lot of money, you'd make a sequel from it. And so we released that first one and then decided to quickly follow it up with a different title that was slightly different, but very much in the same vein of this is what our sort of gamer take on, what soccer mums should be playing, kind of a thing. And that we got a publishing deal for that, and it was enough money to survive. But eventually the publisher decided to not publish it because they realized that we didn't know what the hell we were doing, targeting the sort of demographic and the audience that we were targeting. And eventually another company sort of had an idea of where to take it, and they bought us out. But that left it as a loose end, and we kind of knew that maybe this wasn't the audience to target, or maybe we should be doing something else because this didn't seem to be working.
For sure. Okay, so it sounds like the game design and strategic planning component was missing. You were more of a programmer, and so I'm guessing you just dived into the game and the development of it without thinking about what the audience wants,
Absolutely.
What's selling, etc. But I'm keen to hear more about the dynamic with your co-founder. How
Sure.
did you meet this co-founder, and what skills did you both bring to the partnership?
Yeah, absolutely. So he was making a bunch of video games, and a mutual friend was publishing them, and he was doing the art and the code himself. So he's a really, really talented guy, was and is. But he was sort of limited in the complexity of what he could do. And our mutual friend was sort of saw some of the games that I'd been building at the time and just suggested, hey, why don't you get Michael to program them? And I didn't actually understand I was being asked. Like, they were like, hey, it'd be really good if we had somebody to do this programming. And I'm like, yeah, that does sound like it really would be good. And then like the other guy was like, yeah, Michael, we're asking you to. Yeah, it's my social skills have come somewhat far since I was 15. And so the idea was that I would port it. So I wasn't involved in the game design or anything like that at the time. I just sort of took the old implementation and then ported it to a new framework to make it faster and to fix some issues and stuff like that. And then after we did that, I was like, hey, let's build on it. Like, let's make it more fun and stuff like that, and sort of had some ideas about where it could go. And so we released a few versions where I was sort of doing some amount of creative input into it as well. And that's sort of how the relationship progressed from at the start, I was sort of a contractor, almost a contractor. And then eventually we were basically building the game together. Didn't make a lot of money, but, it was, I think it was pretty fun.
And how long did this journey last together?
This, that was basically throughout high school. And so when I graduated high school, we started on the casual games kind of a thing after that.
Great. Nice. And so I'm keen to hear more about you talked a lot about the internal factors that influenced the things not working to plan.
Sure.
Were there any sort of external factors within the market that you both had to sort of fight against that maybe just didn't align with where you were at in the market? I don't know, it might have been the introduction of mobile phones, the changing of like PCs, and I guess people having more tablets and laptops. I'm not sure if that came in at that time, but yeah, keen to hear about whether there were any external factors that impacted your success or lack of.
Yeah, lack of. I think at that time, like it was a growing market, growing very fast, and there was just tons of money to be made, and any old fool could release a game and make a bunch of money, and so I didn't even meet that bar of any old fool at the time, and so I don't think that there were a ton of external factors, or I think better put would be the external factors are actually working in our favor. Like I think that success was on the table and we just, didn't pick it up. And part of that was just, I don't know, like part of it was maybe a little bit of ego and part of it was just sort of not understanding our audience at all. And they probably go hand in hand, to be honest. And so after we had sort of gone through this journey and released these games, we sort of knew that, okay, we don't understand the target market here. And we saw that a bunch of Flash games, like web games, they were all Flash back then because browsers weren't very advanced, but now they're just generally web games. A bunch of them were getting a lot of plays. And as far as I could tell, they were just made by high school students. Like they weren't very good. And they were having outsized success in terms of the play counts. And so, just some really like crappy little thing would get millions and millions of plays. And it's like, we could do that in a week, The monetization story did not exist though. And so these people were not making a lot of money.
Were there ads or anything at that time okay.
Yeah, so there were ads, but your CPMs would be like $1. And so if 1 million people play your game, you make $1,000. And so it's not
enticing to put in all that effort to make money per se, yeah.
Exactly. And that's why there weren't professionals doing it. And so and we sort of looked at that and we're like, maybe there's something here. Like maybe, maybe if we do a professionally built game, maybe if we professionally build our games, instead of 1 million plays, we could get 10 million plays or 100 million plays or something like that. And so basically in the absence of whatever we're going to work on next, we just decided to try it and do something that was like super simple and just see where it went. And so, and then the other thing was that the Flash market was much more about that sort of hardcore gaming audience, so to speak, which is just like the people that would play Call of Duty would also be the people sort of playing Flash games. It would skewed potentially a bit younger, but that's sort of your general kind of demographic. And because I was from that demographic, then I didn't learn how to target an audience that wasn't me until later. So I accidentally stumbled into product market fit just by making the market myself somewhat. So I didn't have to learn all of those lessons to sort of release a Flash game that did well. And so we thought we were going to make like a tank shooter game, which is a side-on kind of you lob shells at each other until one player dies. It's kind of a very classic kind of there's a history of dozens of these games coming from the DOS era. But when sort of installing Flash and playing around with it, I created a particle effect for the explosion. And it was just following the mouse. So there's like a little smoke trail. I'm like, what if that was a plane? Like, it'd be cool to do a plane. So we're like, yeah, let's just do that. And so we made a game called Stunt Pilot. And we made it in like 2 weeks or something like that. And you would be flying a stunt plane and there were all these rings that you had to sort of fly through. And if you crashed into the wings, then the plane crashed, that you'd crash into the floor. And so there was some danger there. And yeah, we just put together a bunch of levels and put it on our website and then posted it on, I think it was Hacker News was probably the first place that I posted on. Are you familiar with?
No, I'm not at all.
So Hacker News is like a startup it's almost like Reddit for startup
Okay.
people, if that makes sense. It was much, much smaller back then, though. And so basically all of the tech bros are scrolling Hacker News all day long, myself included, so no judgment.
Till today, is that still a big thing?
It's big now, much
Wow,
bigger.
okay.
I've been there since the start.
Okay.
So I posted it there just randomly and then went back to check and it was like number one. And I'm like, oh, wow, like people care about that. And I got a bunch of comments and was like replying to the comments and stuff like that. I think we got like 10,000 plays out of that.
Wow.
And then we went to sleep and then the next day just more links had sort of came up to our website and then it got 100,000 plays that day. And then it just kept getting 100,000 plays like every day and never stopped, like basically till Flash didn't work. I think Stunt Pilot was being played for a decade or so. And so it sort of showed that yeah, we can make these games and make them good. It was certainly it was a good game and it had product market fit and we could just throw these things together and then have success. And so we went and made another game called Dogfight, which was basically putting guns on the planes and then it was like World War One kind of you'd be flying these biplanes around trying to shoot down the other planes in the sky. And we had like a Zeppelin was the boss fight, like a massive thing that was like the size of the screen. And that similarly just sort of had success. And so we'd proven out that we could get a bunch of plays from these. And the portals thing where there are websites that have the viewers and you put your games on them also was in the Flash scene. There were a bunch called Miniclip, Congregate, Newgrounds.
Miniclip, those are some good times.
Miniclip, yep, exactly. So it's a good chance you've played Stunt Pilot.
Yeah, I was just thinking, the name sounds so familiar.
Stunt Pilot was in the top 10 of Miniclip for like 3 years or something like that.
Wow.
So it was on the front page of Miniclip for years. And it was so successful, in fact, that not Miniclip, but another portal, it was copied so much that another portal had so many Stunt Pilot clones that there was a genre of game called Stunt Pilot.
Wow.
And so you had your action and your shooter and your Stunt Pilots. And Stunt Pilot was there along with the rest of them. So
nice.
it did quite well. And that it just felt like taking candy from a baby somewhat because it was just like we were putting out these titles, not putting that much time into them. And then the market was noticing. And that was it was clear that we were finding success there in terms of we were doing stuff and people cared or like the market was noticing. We still weren't making any money though because, like $1 per 1,000 plays, like, you may be making $100 a day from 100,000 plays a day or whatnot. It's not nothing, but it's not great. And $1 was probably the high watermark, not the average, not the median or anything like that, or the mean. So we had basically figured out the traffic engine. So players were falling like manna from the heavens, but we didn't have a business there yet. And so we sat down and thought about what we could do there to sort of make some money. And there was one game that so we were one of the first to actually put payments in Flash games. I'm sure a lot of high school kids hated us for that. But we weren't the first, and I think I noticed on TechCrunch they had an article about like some web game that had put money in, like payments in, and so I think that they were the first. And I looked at them and I played the game, and I'm like, this game is terrible.
Do you know if they were making money from it, even though the game was terrible?
So TechCrunch claimed that they were making a lot of money. I doubt that. I think that there was a bit of puffery there, but
And at what stage of the journey did this happen? Like, how many years into the partnership or the game development did you then introduce the payments?
This was 6 months after Stunt Pilot, so it all happened pretty quickly.
Yeah, very quickly.
And so we had the traffic, and I think we made like 5 smaller games like Stunt Pilot, and we decided to make a larger game. And what we were paying attention to were like a few people had done these tests and they'd found that 1 out of 1,000 players would pay money for it. And we charged $10 back then. And you could do that because that was before the 99-cent iPhone price anchoring.
And what kind of features could they get for $10?
it was the old shareware model. And so it's like you give away a third of the game, 2 hours of gameplay, say, and then you pay $10 for another 4 hours of gameplay. So we gave a lot of content away, and we gave a lot of content away for free as well, which I think is super, super important. iPhone games right now just seem to ask for money after like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. So we consciously thought of, like, we didn't stumble into it. We're like, all right, well, if we can believe these conversion rates and we have all of this traffic, then we should be able to make a bunch of money from building one of these more like longer form advanced games and put some put some in-app purchase in it. So we did that, and we made a game called Robokill. That was, do you play any games at all?
Not so much anymore, but I am familiar.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, you did mention Miniclip. And so Robokill was basically combining Robotron, like the old arcade cabinet twin stick shooter, and a game called Diablo 2, which was like an action RPG. You would go out and kill a bunch of monsters and get the loot and then level up your character and stuff like that. And so it was basically taking like quite a basic shooter of like, enemies would come in and there'd be different types. They launch missiles at you and then run away, and like just all different types of interesting shootery enemies. But then there were the upgrade mechanisms. So you get all of the loot and then you would like configure your character and stuff like that. So it wasn't very original. It was basically taking two games and melding them together. And that's, the degree to which I do original stuff, that's generally like where I like to stay.
Just remixes, I guess.
Exactly, yeah. There's no shame in it.
It is what it is. They do really well too, so.
Exactly, yeah. So, we designed that game and put it all together and released it. And, just overnight. I think the day we put it up, so I was trying to convince my co-founder, like, we should do this charging thing. He kind of wanted to sell it a bit more to like a portal or something like that. Like, don't think he was super convinced. But I made him agree to take a chance on it, basically. So we'll put this game out. We spent 3 months on it and we'll just see.
So were those the two monetization options at that time?
Yes. Okay. Yes, very much so. And so sometimes portals, you would sell them versions that are like site locked to their portals, and then they put their ads on it and stuff like that. And you get an upfront amount of money. But it's just not much money. It's not worth doing it. It's for the kids in uni or whatever making the games. It's not to fund professional studios. And so we were tossing up between charging a lot more for it because it's a premium game, or just doing the in-app purchasing thing. And we released it the first day, and it got like 12 sales or something like that, so $120. So not a huge amount. But then the next day it was over 100. It was almost exactly 100. It was like 102 or something like that. Just 102 sales came in. And then, so at the time, that was about 2,000 New Zealand dollars because the dollar, the exchange rate was really good. And then the next day, 100 sales came in. Next day, 100 sales came in. And that didn't stop for years. And so the game was just very successful overnight. And so I went from budgeting, like what can I afford to eat this week, to overnight just being like, we're making more in sales every day than my car is worth.
How old were you at this point in time?
21, I think.
Wow.
So there was a bit of downtime between getting there and so building these tiles and stuff like that. But once we released the first Flash game, it was all happening really pretty quickly. And so life was good.
It sounds like it was very, very good. With your games, did they have any common themes, or because I find that most game development companies, you can just tell that it was made by them, whether it's like the coloring scale or the thematic or the way they name the games. Were there any common themes, or did you sort of have your stamp or your signature in the games in some way?
I think in large part the art and the style came from Rob, my co-founder. And so he's a very, very good artist, like was and is. And he put a lot of polish into things. And so there was definitely like a stylistic through line between all of the games. And especially when we were making like these games for teenage boys, basically like shooter games and stuff like that, we could reuse a lot of the same components and stuff like that. It was really important to us that we only produced high quality games. in the sense of they could be small, so they don't have to be big, they don't have to take a lot of time, but they had to be small enough or the right size so that they were just always felt premium, basically, compared to what else was in the market. And I think we really did make a name for ourselves in the Flash market at the time. And after you play one of the games, it would sort of give you ads for the other games, basically.
Smart.
So that worked pretty well.
Yeah, it sounds really, really good. I also can really appreciate the marketing side when I was at uni, and I'm in no way in the same universe as you or your co-founder. But I was part of a team and we developed some games and we actually took it to a gaming con in Seattle.
Oh,
and
wow.
For me, it was a very amazing experience to see other gamers and other developers and just to like really get a grasp of the market. And nowadays it's so hard to market games. There's so many good games out there, so many great, developers. So yeah, I'm in admiration that you guys were able to get 2,000 revenues a day for years. Like that is amazing.
Yeah, it was we were pretty surprised as well. So also you're an international economist, and so not in the same league, I think, is like up here.
Oh no. Not at all.
Yeah. So, and if you look at Steam now, which is probably the primary way that these sort of hardcore games are sort of developed and put out, there are 100 releases a day, and so many of them will get like 10 sales or something like that. And I think that game development in general, looking back at it, I didn't understand it at the time, but looking back at it, there have just been these little gold rushes of this is hot right now, that's hot right now.
And the market just crowds in.
Market crowds in, but only after everyone realizes. I think a lot of people are reluctant to sort of make that plunge. Like they're just, we make these games or that game. Like they don't pivot. And I think that if I were trying to do games professionally right now, it would be very much like a, drop everything and chase this, or drop everything and chase that kind of a thing. I don't think it's a good business to be in. Don't, if you're watching this at home, don't get into games. But
why do you say that?
It's a lot of people that want to make games.
For the wrong reasons, as in to make money, or is it just a very crowded market?
It's a very crowded market because people are willing to take a pay cut to work in games. And I think that, for me, I was an independent game developer, and so it was my own stuff. And so it's fine, I would have made more money if I'd just gotten a job at Google over the last 15 years or whatever. But if it's your own stuff, then if you have to do it, basically if you listen to me saying don't do it, then you probably shouldn't do it.
Okay.
And if you're like no, I'm going to do it, that's all I care about, then that's
you have
when
to be
you should
very
do it.
passionate about it.
Very much so, because you will be taking a pay cut, statistically, to work in it. So you have to be okay with that trade-off, I think.
Okay. And in hindsight, and with way more years, over 20 years of experience in this sector, what are the key elements needed for success today in the gaming industry?
Yeah, I think the ability to sense where the market's going, play what's out there, play what is strangely unexpectedly successful, I think is super important. And one of the gaming startups that I did more recently, one thing that I didn't mention is that after Robokill's success, we got a lot of attention. I was on my floor in pajamas talking to venture capitalists and stuff like that.
21. Wow.
None of them were interested. Once they realized that it was just, a couple of dudes making some games, I think that
in New Zealand, in an island.
Yeah, but they'd see me at the top of Dig or whatever and just be like, wow, well, check this company out. But one of the interesting connections I made was to the founder of PopCap Games, Jason, and we sort of talked a bit, at the time, and they were thinking about getting into Flash, but they weren't sure. And so that was also just a mind-blowing thing for me, because he hadn't sold it for $1 billion yet, but
still,
it was a big deal. And then we sort of stayed in touch, and later on he funded a studio that we put together to do web-based games. And so it was almost just sort of a similar thing where multiplayer, .io was the genre, where you would go to a website and then just be instantly dropped into a multiplayer game. They were doing pretty well, and we built a bunch of IO titles and a bunch of multiplayer tech and stuff like that, and it was good fun. We never solved the monetization, unfortunately, but at any one time there were thousands of people playing the games. And so that's the kind of thing that you have to do, just sense where things are going and then just jump on it. And I think you mentioned sunk cost fallacy earlier. Like I think a lot of people have sunk cost fallacy in terms of, oh, we have this engine so we can make these games easier or whatever. Like I think adaptability is key.
That makes sense. And in terms of your relationship with your co-founder, how did that progress over time? Were there any frictions? Did you have to pivot in terms of responsibilities? How was that working relationship?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think that I thought that I was pretty good back then in terms of like a co-founder, like how good I was as a co-founder and stuff like
At
that.
21?
Yeah, exactly right. And so I at the time I did blame him for a lot of, like, we had some interpersonal issues, and I definitely blamed him. And then I look back at that and I'm like, oh, obviously, like we were both tangling a little bit. I think that after we had a bunch of success, I was pulling in the direction of like I'd read the Richard Branson book, and I'm like, let's make something really big. And I wanted to hire a bunch of people and stuff like that. Like we were making enough money to do it, and we eventually got to like 8 full and part time, including the founders. So 6 basically people working on the games.
Were they all based in New Zealand or all around the world or Australia?
In New Zealand, yeah. So we rented like almost like a holiday home, 6-bedroom house on Waiheke Island.
Wow, it sounds like real startup gamey vibes.
Very much so, yeah. So that was good fun, and we scaled up, and that meant that obviously our burn rate was much higher, and there was less money going into our own pockets, obviously. And so I wanted to like go big or go home. I just wanted to scale it up, and it's like, wow, if we could make 1 game and it does this, what if we make 10 games? And he was much more focused around like the artistic nature of it all, and he wanted to build stuff that was sort of bigger and maybe more clever and like more subtle and stuff like that. And so an example of that was for Dogfight 2, the sequel that we made, which was one of our most successful titles. He built these just absolutely beautiful real-world models, and then took photographs of it to make, because you're flying over all these World War I trenches, and so it's the most just destroyed, ghastly scenes, but they were very just beautifully shot, real models, and it had a very distinctive look as a result. And so he wanted to go more in that direction, like up the production values and stuff like that. And I wanted to scale up this cookie cutter machine. And so I think, in retrospect, I don't think either of us had the right idea. I think that scaling up was a bad idea because we were handed basically a money printer, where it was just like, turn this handle and you'll make a bunch of money. And it's like, you give me that today and all I'm going to do is sit there turning that handle. Like I think that I think that just doing what we were doing over and over again with just us and not hiring staff and things like that would have made a lot more sense. I think that I didn't appreciate at the time that scaling up causes a whole bunch of other issues. And
like what?
Like management and making sure everyone's working effectively. And it can be a false economy, because it's like, if I am spending my time managing instead of just writing the games, like sometimes, like quite likely, had I just built, like if I just programmed full time,
It would have been quicker.
It would have been quicker, yeah.
And cheaper, yeah.
Yeah, very much so. And so I think that scaling up was probably a bad idea. I think that I would have much more slowly brought on people, and also just like I probably would have waited a much longer, and then like acqui-hired a studio or something, like brought on somebody that was like as talented as us, or like, I don't want to say talented. The people that we got.
Oh, you were talented. Let's be honest.
But like, so were the people we hired. But like, they weren't. Like, I probably would have found another studio that was doing similar things to what we were doing
and collaborated
more.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that probably would have made more sense in terms of scaling up, because then you're not starting from scratch essentially, and teaching everyone how to do what you're doing. And I think what he wanted to do was to sort of increase the production values of the games and whatnot. And I think that that would have, or was increasing the development times. And so Dogfight 1 took 2 weeks, and Dogfight 2 took 3 months or something like that. And I don't think that we were having commensurate success as a result of increasing those production values.
So the quality didn't go up because you were spending more time developing the games per se, or did it go up?
The quality went up,
Okay.
but and so Dogfight 2 was just so much better than Dogfight 1. So the quality went up, but I think that what we didn't appreciate necessarily at the time was that if you put us in front of all the other Flash games, our quality was already higher. So it's like, it doesn't matter.
You were focusing on the wrong thing. Yeah.
We were focusing on the wrong thing. And so at the time, I was very confused about how to approach that from a person-to-person standpoint. Like we definitely had some conflict. And I just don't think I had the skills necessarily to navigate that at the time. I mean, this is probably skipping ahead towards the end, but that's probably one of the biggest takeaways I had from that. Like it took me a few years to mature and understand the dynamics of the situation, but ever since I put a lot of focus on sort of building one-to-one relationships and things like that, because at some point you're going to have to cash that goodwill in, in one way or another, and it's really, really important to sort of build that. There's that sort of like that tank model of relationships, and make sure you fill the tank, because at some points you'll be emptying it. So I think that I was not equipped to sort of handle that situation. And I think that even when we shut it down, it continued to make a bunch of money. Like we didn't close the website. It just sort of sat there and no more games were being developed. And so there weren't really particularly any external. I mean, there was some headwinds. $10 started to get pretty rich when iPhone games were being like 99 cents and whatnot. And also a lot of the casual, like the casual side of hardcore. So it's like the teenage boy stuff, but not Call of Duty, but more like Stun Pilot would be an example. It's like a lot of that stuff was going to the iPhone. And so the general Flash scene was seeing much less traffic than before. And so combine the two, like less traffic and less willingness to fork over $10, that meant that the overall revenue of the Flash scene probably went down substantially. And you can't charge 99 cents for Flash games because on your iPhone, you just tap a button, it's done. On the web, you're like putting your credit card details into a site, and people aren't like that. That's a bigger barrier than the money, So
there's so many more times and steps that they can pull back, I guess.
Very much so.
Yeah.
So conversion rates wouldn't go up much if you charged much less, but they would on an iPhone. So I think that there were some external factors that made it less profitable. But the business was still absurdly profitable for the scale of 2 people. And so I think ultimately it died, like lived and died on relationships essentially. And so Rod gave me a chance to come and make games with him. Like he was more successful, like he was a successful game developer in the sense that he'd done it all before and like he'd had hits and stuff like that. And he sort of gave me a chance to come and make games with him, and I'm forever grateful for that, and everything like that. Like I think that, I think if I was in the same situation today, I would have definitely handled it all much better. But I don't necessarily judge myself because when you're 21, it's hard to do the right things, I think.
It is, and it's more about the journey. And now that you've got the lessons learned, implementing it into your current ventures. Some other key lessons you mentioned included really spending time understanding the market, I guess, and ensuring that you're targeting the market correctly.
Yes.
Are there any other lessons learned you want to sort of clarify?
I think the importance of forward momentum. I think that because we moved to the office that I spoke about before, like the sort of holiday home kind of an office, and hired a bunch of people. And I remember looking at the calendar and I'm like, wow, we haven't released anything in 4 months. It's really easy to get distracted with things that aren't the key driver of your business. And you don't get distracted and do things that are ridiculous, like play games all day or whatever, like hopefully. But it's really easy to get distracted with things that feel like they're moving the needle, or like they feel like you should be doing something, but they're not necessarily the key driver.
You're just busying yourself doing things,
Exactly. And there are an unlimited amount of things that you can do for a business. And so I think that that's another one of the takeaways that I have is like you basically need to set aside a substantial amount of time for the key driver of your business. and then that comes first, and then everything else can fill the gaps in your calendar after that is accomplished.
That's a really good point. I see a lot of startups struggling with the over corporatization of their organization because you do need to move towards that direction,
Sure.
but you need to move at it at an appropriate pace to make sure that you're, as you said, addressing the core business and doing what's making your startup succeed in the first place. So yeah, knowing what pace to move in that direction is really hard and tricky. Yeah.
Yeah, very much so.
Because then if you're too slow, then you might have issues with like staffing and people not feeling
yeah.
supported. But if you're too fast, like you said, it's over bureaucratic and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Steve Blank does some really interesting startup writing, and he had this post about the curse of a new office and all the startups that he's seen basically when they move into a place, like the culture shifts and they feel like they've made it too early and things just slow down. Like it's just one, moving to an office is just one thing, but a lot of the time it correlates with other things, and it's sort of that journey from a scrappy startup that's just trying to survive and moving as fast as they can to a more established company. It can be very dangerous.
Very, very dangerous. Well, in summary, it's been very, very, very interesting. In one sentence, if you could, go back and talk to 21-year-old Michael, what would you tell Michael to do differently?
21-year-old Mike would not listen to me. So.
We can try.
I think a big part of what I would try to say is that I was very lucky, and I think that that would be what I would want to understand, that I just felt like, hey, you just start doing stuff and then you're successful and then that's how it works. And I didn't understand that I was doing the right things, but luck was also on my side. And at other times I would be not doing the right thing I would be doing the right thing and luck wouldn't be on my side, or I wouldn't be doing the right thing. And so, yeah, I think trying to get myself a perspective of, wow, like strike while the iron's hot. This is a good opportunity, and don't get distracted and just execute. Is what I would probably say. That's not a sentence, but hopefully that sums it up.
No, it does. And out of curiosity, did you end up going back to uni and finishing that degree?
No.
Oh.
And never mattered. So I did video game startups off and on for about 12 years.
Wow.
And then I was very conscious sort of in my mid-30s about being like all I'd done is failed startups. And so I wanted to mitigate some of the downside risk. And so I decided to get my first job. And I worked really, really hard at that first job. And so I went into the medical devices industry and went in as an individual contributor and worked my way up to running a group of 35 people as a director of engineering there.
That's impressive.
And thank you. And it was, but I was trying to execute. I was trying to be impressive, because if you think about the resume, right, it's like, hey, I started a bunch of startups. If somebody, like an interviewer is reading that, it's like they've got nothing to hang it on, right?
Yeah.
It's like, did you do some really good work, but then like it just didn't work out? Or did you just inherit some money and then sit around in your underwear, play Call of Duty for 15 years and they're like, I need to get a job, And so I was trying to do really well at the first role that I took. And I was working really, really hard to make sure that I did, because it sort of hangs the rest of my experience on it. It's like, all right, I guess he probably learned something, over that time. And so I was trying to have an impressive run essentially. And now I've had that, then I'm less concerned about the downside risk and I'm starting another startup.
That makes sense. You didn't need the university degree. You've been successful without it. And what's next for you? What's in your future?
I'm building a startup around generative AI. And so I'm trying to merge my experience with video games with a bunch of the experiments that I've been doing around sort of building ChatGPT integrations and whatnot. And so I'm building something to enable you to make dynamic worlds with characters in them and things like that, but in a way that you can sort of speak to it and ask for changes and stuff like that. So if you use ChatGPT, you've got this very interesting back and forth dynamic where you ask it for something and then you're like, whoa, no, that's not what I meant. And you sort of can make these dynamic changes to it. And so I'm trying to bring that into the world of video games and simulations and stuff like that.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's huge.
yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It is. It sounds like it. And you're definitely talented and the person to be doing that. Thank you so much, Michael. It's
love.
been very interesting and it's been great having you here.
It's been great to be here. Thank you.